You want to form a band. Why on earth would you not? Being in a band for me was the craziest, most mind-blowing experience. And it all started from some people in a rehearsal room, and we ended up in the USA, Australia, Europe countless times. We went around the UK, I stood on main stage festivals, we released 2 albums, we did some mad things, and you probably don't even know who we were. But we built a really loyal fan base and had some of the most crazy things happen. And you can do the same. But where on earth do you start? You've got to find some band members. I've seen this question on the internet and I thought I would have a go at answering, given my experience of forming a band myself and some things that happened and some places where I think are not really talked about, where you could find some band members to go and live your dreams and do crazy things with, or just play some shows at the local venue, or start playing some weddings and earn some money. So here are 6 tips on how to find some band members. Let's go. Okay, number 1, and most importantly, this applies to anything in life, not just forming a band. You need to actively tell people you are looking to form a band. The idea needs to get further than your head. It's no good if you're just sat in your bedroom or you're at your desk at work and you're thinking, I'd really like to start a band. And then you write it on a Reddit forum. You need to go and tell people. You need to actively seek some musicians. So where do you start? Well, you can start by telling your friends and your family and the people you know. You can write it on Facebook and Reddit and these different various social medias. You can put an advert out on Gumtree or Craigslist. But I think you need to go even further than this. You need to actively find some musicians. So you need to tell people and go to places where musicians hang out, where they're gonna be. Where's that? Start with rehearsal rooms. There's always bands rehearsing in rehearsal rooms. You need to make yourself a poster with those little slips, as corny and as cheesy and as movie-like as that sounds, and go and stick it in your local rehearsal room, your local music shop. Go to the local recording studio. Tell the engineer, hey, do you know anyone that might want to start a band? Get it out there. Go to gigs in your local area. That's a huge one. Go and tell people at the gig, you're looking to start a band. The open mic nights in your local area. That's where you're going to see local musicians playing. Go to your local music college or school. Don't worry if you're an adult. Music colleges have like a Saturday school where adults and children alike go and learn their instruments. Go there and go and tell people. If you see someone with a guitar, say, hey, I'm looking for a guitar player to start a band. You need to actively go out, tell people. Now, if you're an introvert, there are some ways you could go about making this less of a put yourself out there. Make some business cards or make a poster, get an online advert and get something tangible for them to look at. A really untapped source, in my opinion, are music tutors, instrumental tutors. Tell guitar tutors in your area. Tell drum tutors in your area. Ring up your local vocal tutor. If there's anybody that knows someone that can do those things, it's their tutor. I myself am a guitar tutor. If you came to me and were like, I'm looking for some guitar players, I would be more than happy to tell the people I teach. It's no big deal. Even if things don't feel like they're working at all, at least you're actively putting it out there. If your friend knows that you're looking to join or start a band, when they bump into a musician, they'll go, oh, I actually know someone that's looking to start a band. If you haven't told anyone, how are you ever going to start a band with anyone? You need to tell people. Get the idea further than your head and be proactive in searching actual musicians, not just people. Your cat probably isn't going to count. Your grandma, I don't know, you might have a rad grandma who knows loads of musicians. Okay, so you're going out, you're actively telling people, you've made some adverts with the little slips, which are kind of cool really. They're like retro but cool. Great. Step number 2, and I think this step is probably the best piece of advice of all for starting a band. Start a solo project and then form a band using your solo project. This comes from experience. This is exactly how I formed my band Ghouls. I sat down and I wrote a bunch of songs. I stuck them on SoundCloud. I booked some shows in the local area and I thought, do you know what? I don't want to play by myself. I'm going to get some guys to play with me. So I called up a friend who played guitar, I spoke to a guy I knew who played bass, and a really old friend who played drums, and I said, hey guys, would you mind being my backing band for these 3 shows I've got? We went to a rehearsal room, we rehearsed all the songs, we played the 3 shows, and at the end of the 3 shows, we'd had such a good time. I said to them, do you guys want to make this a real band? Like, not just my name on the poster, but like a band name? And they said yeah, which was music to my ears, because it was my plan the whole time. If you're not a singer-songwriter, and you can't just go out and book some shows for you to play, maybe you're a drummer or a cello player, then I think another way to do this, and maybe you would do this if you are a singer-songwriter, is to start a YouTube account and start uploading covers. There are bands that are big. One that comes to mind is Neck Deep, the pop-punk British outfit. Their drummer was found on YouTube. He had a YouTube account, he was putting covers on. They were looking for a drummer, they found him, he got to join Neck Deep. Pretty cool. He's touring the world now. I think the whole premise to this step is that it's a much better sales pitch to somebody if you're asking them to join or start a band, if there are things that are actually going on. It takes the whole just talking about it a whole step further. You have things actually going on. If you said to a guitar player, hey, I'm looking for a guitar player, I've got some shows booked, I've written some songs, and we rehearse every Thursday, does that work? That's a way better sales pitch than saying, hey, you want to start a band? I'll make an Instagram. Having something tangible makes it way more appealing, and it shows those people that you're looking to start a band with that you're serious. Even if the solo project you were doing, you scrap those songs and you start writing new ones together, that's fine, that's great. It gives everybody a feel for how it is to be in a rehearsal room or be in a gigging scenario or even be in a band together. It starts the process of figuring out whether you really want to do this or how you're going to do this. But there's something going on. And that's ultimately what makes a band. A band isn't a bunch of social media profiles. A band isn't a music video. A band is something that's actively doing things. And if you've already started that process yourself, then it's way easier to find people. When they answer the adverts, they pull the slip off the piece of paper that has your number on it. They say, hey, I'm looking to start a band, I'm a drummer. You can be like, cool, I've got some shows. Or if you are the drummer and you call up the band and you say, hey, I'm a drummer, I'll join your band. And they're like, we want to see you play. You can be like, sure, I've got a YouTube account. Here you go. Here's a cover of me playing Jimmy Eat World. I don't know why I said Jimmy Eat World. What's great about the YouTube thing is if you're playing covers of bands you like, you're going to attract people who are also into those bands. So you'll share something in common. And if they're the bands that you're actively trying to start a band that sounds like, then brilliant. You're going to find people who are also into those bands too. The other things are you're practicing songs, and thirdly, you might end up with a YouTube account that gets thousands of subscribers, and that's your thing then. Then you can have a huge selection of people that want to start a band with you. No big deal. Okay, number 3, and this one is a pretty big one. This has happened to me twice now. It's move somewhere where you're going to find musicians. Now this can be taken 2 ways. The big life-changing, huge, alter the entire course of everything step, or just on a small way and in your local area. And I'll go through both. This is something I did. When I got to 18, I played in a band throughout high school, but ultimately the members of that band wanted to go off and do other things. They wanted to study other things, they wanted to travel. I just wanted to be in a band. From an early age, I'd always had this idea that I would go to university and study art, and whilst I was studying art, I'd meet the members of my band, and we'd go off and do real art stuff and make art rock, and we'd all be crazy creative. It's actually an idea I had after I read about the band Franz Ferdinand, who were a Scottish indie kind of band from the early 2000s. They all met at the Glasgow School of Art. I read that biography and I was like, that's me, I'm going to do that too. Until somebody asked me, what is your ultimate goal in life right now? And I said, be in a band. I've wanted to be in a band since I was 11 years old. Since I first heard Blink-182, the rock show. And I watched Wheatus on MTV at some friend's house. And they said, well, if you want to find musicians to start a band and tour the world, then why on earth would you go and study art where you're going to be surrounded by people who want to be big in the art world or make art? Why wouldn't you go somewhere where you're going to be surrounded by musicians who also share this dream? And I had a light bulb moment, and suddenly I was on my way to London to study music, because if I was going to find anyone anywhere in the UK, it was going to be in London, which is the largest city in the UK and has a thriving music scene, plenty of venues, and I'd be on a music degree with a load of musicians who play guitar, bass and sing and drums and maybe even cello. Ultimately, the band I was in, only one of the members actually studied the same degree and went to the same university I did. That didn't matter. We made it work through being in London, through going to local shows and talking and telling everyone we wanted to do a band. Now, if you're not in a position in life to just go to university or up and leave somewhere where there are plenty of musicians, you could do this on a smaller level. Going back to the first step, go to the places in your local area where there are musicians. The rehearsal studios, the music shop, the recording studio, your local music college, Saturday school or whatever, and go there and become a member of the scene. Go to the shows, go to the open mic nights. Make people aware that you're there as a musician. I've recently done this again. I have started a music business. I am trying to become a full-time songwriter, YouTuber, creative person. I've moved to Brighton because I know that there are a huge hub of people here who are like-minded, who will want to get involved, who want to collaborate, who are like me. I guess the whole moving and changing your life thing, it really depends on where you are in life and maybe how bad you want this. If you do end up leaving your family to move to a city, then that wasn't on me, okay? Okay, hopefully those 3 points will start the process of you finding some band members. And that leads us to point number 4, which is the first original lineup probably won't be the final lineup. In other words, your first members won't stick. And don't be discouraged when they don't. There's something romantic about the idea of you all met on that fateful night in Camden in that pub, and then 20 years later you ended up on Coachella main stage with your all-time favourite hit that's been #1 for 10 years. But the chances are that isn't the reality. The people you met on that night in Camden, 3 weeks later, one of them's got to leave, one of them's moving out of town, one of them's decided it's not for them. These things happen. Being in a band is tough, it's difficult, it's a commitment, it's more of a commitment than some people might realise. Even if you're not going on huge tours and recording albums, you're just playing covers down at your local venue every week, that's still a huge commitment. It requires a night a week to play the show and a night every now and then to rehearse. Not only that, but to learn the parts, to really stay committed, to upkeep all your instruments. There's way more to it than most people realise, and that ultimately means people decide it's not for them. But that's okay. It's like ironing a shirt. You've got to get all the creases out first before it's nice and flat. It's the same thing for your band. There are going to be members you clash with, there are going to be people that just don't fit. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. Like I said in the other points, be active still. Play the shows, don't cancel them all and decide it's over. Play them acoustic, or you and the cello player just play them together. Ask the promoter if you can go down on the bill slightly earlier, you're changing your style, release an acoustic single, it's fine. If a member leaves, it's fine. It's not over. Actively keep it going. This is a good reason to take royalties and property of songs very seriously to start with. The last thing you want to do is in 10 years time, you find yourself in a #1 hit band and everything's going amazingly well, and you get a call from that bass player who only lasted 3 rehearsals saying, "Where's my royalties?" Don't worry, don't stress when those members ultimately have to do other things in life. It took Ghouls, my old band, 3 years before we had a consistent lineup. There were different drummers, bass players, a guitar player left. These things happen. Life happens. Some people have other priorities, they meet someone, they want to go traveling, they just can't commit. That's okay, but keep going. The other thing here is to not take this too far the other way. If things aren't quite working out, it doesn't mean you have to cut everyone from the band and start again. Like, it's fine when there's a bit of friction. You're all people, you've all got lives, different stresses going on. Your relationship as band members is like nothing else. It's like being family, but work colleagues, but also doing all these crazy things that people are constantly questioning around you all the time. And it results in some of the wildest experiences, but it also results in some of the lowest experiences. And you've got to ride that wave together. Sometimes there's going to be arguments, sometimes there's going to be stress. You don't need to kick everyone out in those moments. Noel Gallagher, Liam Gallagher, that's kind of been and gone. You can stay friends, you can work it out. Okay, point number 5, and one of my favorites: commitment and personality over skill and experience. What I mean by this is, when looking for people to be in a band with, or if you've lost a member or you're trying to join a band, look for commitment and personality way before you worry about how well someone can play or whether they've been touring in bands for the last 20 years. You ultimately want to be able to get on with that person. There's a really cool documentary by the hardcore band Parkway Drive, who are from Australia. Even if you don't like hardcore, it's a really cool thing to watch if you're into band life, or you want to start a band, or you're already in a band. They have a point where their bass player quits. Instead of actively trying to find a new bass player who's been playing bass for years and will be able to play all the parts and learn them really quickly, they get the dude that's been doing merch for them for the last few years. Because they get on with him. He comes on every tour with them. He's committed. They like him. He's a friend. They give him a bass and he has to work out the parts. You can teach someone how to play an instrument. Someone can learn how to play an instrument, but they can't learn how to have a good attitude if they've already got one that stinks. You want people you like. You don't want some who can play all the arpeggios known to man. Now, it does help if they own the instrument or have access to it. Obviously, there are a few things to consider here and you shouldn't be stupid, but I honestly think getting a friend over some randomer who seems like a dick, way better. Alright, number 6, and my final point of this video is, it gets easier. Don't be discouraged. When you're in those early stages of starting a band, things can feel tough. It feels like everyone that comes to a rehearsal just never appears again. It's okay. Once you get a foundation going and you're actively doing things, more people are likely to want to join your band or start a band with you. And this is why it's so important to at least get to that first show. If you could do anything, even if those members aren't the ones, or you aren't working, or they can only do 3 weeks of rehearsing and shows and then they're out because they've got commitments otherwise, that's okay. Get to that first show, because at least once you've had a show, and you might have a couple more booked, when you're trying to find that guitar player or cello player or drummer who loves Jimmy Eat World, you'll have something tangible to show them. Hey, want to join my band? We've got 3 shows coming up. Is a way better sales pitch than, hey, you want to join my band? We've got Instagram. To take this even further, if you're well established and you've got some records out and you might have done a tour or 2, then you've got a following and you can just say, hey guys, we're looking for a drummer. Yeah, you might have to do some vetting. Yeah, you might get one that only lasts a couple of weeks, but ultimately finding them is way easier than it was when you were wandering around that music college going, is this ever going to happen? Being in a band for me changed my life. And like I said, I knew I wanted to do it from a really early age. And I honestly didn't stop at anything to make it happen. Now, as I said earlier in the video, you might have no clue who my band were, but we did incredible things. And it was the wildest time. And I would recommend it to anybody. Just don't be discouraged. You can get there, you can do it. I hope you found this video useful. I make these videos because I feel like I should share some of the things that I've learned over the years. I feel like it will at least help some people. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more, and share this with someone that might benefit. If you're the friend of the person that's going, I really want to start a band, share this video with them. There's weekly videos, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. Rock and roll. Peace out. Love, happiness. Coachella, what's up? Jimmy Eat World.